Alright, I'm back working on my 2008 Mazda 6 here this morning. It's a cool 32 degrees here. And I've had the upper coolant hose is busted. And I'm going to show you that here in just a second. Okay, so over here on, like where your spout is, come over here on this side. And right here is going to be the upper hose, and it kind of runs down underneath like your air intake here and then back up through here. It's kind of tricky to even get to here without any tools and stuff. And what had happened, it was about 10 miles from here where it busted, but I was able to get some duct tape, you can see there, and I wrapped it around it after it set and cooled off, and just, you know, it was good enough kind of patch it to limp home on. So that's what I did and drove it home. Now I did put a little bit of coolant back in it, probably lost some more, but I took some 50-50 mix and put back in here. But that's all I did, was took duct tape and wrapped it up as best I could and just drove it home. So we're going to go ahead here first and get it up on some ramps here, because we're going to need to drain a little bit of coolant out. It's not going to take a lot, but we're going to drain it down just a little so we don't have any coolant leaking when we go to taking this loose here. So we'll go ahead and get it up on ramps here and start with that. Okay, so we got us a clean drain pan, and we're just going to strain this thing back through some cloth or something and reuse what I get out. There's no sense in just throwing it out. And we're just going to get under here with a Phillips, and we'll have a little drain hole under here that we'll need to get. It's right here in the middle. And just take a Phillips, and this thing shouldn't be too terribly, just get the right size Phillips, or get a flat or something that'll fit it. And we're just going to loosen this off and drain a little bit out. We don't need to drain a whole bunch. Okay, and there's my plug, and we just got that drain, and we're going to drain a little bit out of here, and where I feel it's down low enough to where I don't have to worry about it leaking out. And then we'll just put the plug back in here. I think I'm only going to take like a gallon or so out. Probably be plenty, or half a gallon. Okay, so we just went ahead and put that plug back in there for now. We've got, I feel like, plenty drained out here. You know, so we'll just save this and strain it back through some cloth and reuse it, because it's not very old. Okay, so before we get this hose out of here, we're going to remove some stuff up here. We're going to get this air box and this intake, and we're just going to start with this clip here. We'll push that down and get that out of the way. And I've got a lot of coolant up here from when the hose busted, so it's going to have to be cleaned off later. You just squeeze these on both sides. You squeeze here and squeeze here, and this will push off. And then we're going to take 10 millimeter and loosen up this clamp right here. And then we'll just take and wiggle this boot off. It's usually pretty stubborn, but usually it will come loose. I just may not be able to get it with one hand here. I'm going to go ahead and free up my other hand here. Okay, and you probably want to get you some gloves when taking this loose. Now when you get this loose here, you're going to get your hands down under here and get one under here, and you're going to pull up on this just as hard as you can. It's going to really be stuck. down into these grommets here. You can see the little pegs that goes down into those grommets. You have to give it a pretty good pull to be able to pop it up off there. Like I said, I've got coolant everywhere in here. So now that we've got that cleared up out of the way, probably want to take you a rag, put on here so you're not getting any debris or anything in there. But now we can get to these clamps. And this one up here is a little bit trickier, but we'll get some needle nose and we'll get up here and get to that. And you could always put the little screw style clamps back on there if you don't want to fool with these things. Now the only thing as far as holding it now, we've got this that clips to this other hose. We can just pop that off, get that out of the way. This hose runs around to the back there. It's really not going to be in our way. We're going to go ahead and cover this up temporarily. Okay, so I just got my pliers and we're going to get in here and get a hold of this clamp here first. So sometimes these can be stubborn, so you may have to fiddle with it a little bit to get it to cooperate. But that's all I'm going to do is back that one up first. These hoses can stick, but if it does, you may have to really do some twisting on it. In this case, this one's coming off pretty easy. Of course, I replaced this radiator not long ago. So now we're just going to get over here and get on this other clamp down here, and we'll be able to take this completely out. Just pay attention to how it goes in here. Okay, so that clamp was on there pretty tight, and it kind of digs grooves around that hose too, so it made it difficult to kind of wiggle it off. But I'm just doing the same thing now that I've got that backed off. I'm just going to twist until I can get this removed, and if I drain enough coolant, hopefully I won't have any more leaking out here. Okay, so, and there's still some in the hose. We'll get it over here and dump it in this bucket. Okay, and here is my replacement hose. I got this from AutoZone, and you can see it's pretty close where it should work. Here is the part number. So we're just going to put it back in the same way we took it out there, and it looks like that this is the end. It's going to go back to the radiator. And sometimes these things will say which way they go. And I'm going to go ahead and peel this this duct tape off here, and I'll show you. Now, like I said, when I was replacing the radiator, this hose to me doesn't look that bad. I mean, it's not really got the typical dry rotting or anything, and it's just you know, kind of a lesson that if you know your car has a lot of miles on it, regardless of how these hoses look, you may want to replace them, because I was thinking there's really, by looking at it, was nothing wrong. I really didn't see any weak spot, but apparently it got a weak spot down here. Okay, so here is this split, this crack in this thing, and it almost just looked like that you took a knife and just stabbed it. I mean, the way that it busted. And like I said, no warning sign or anything. It does, however, feel a little bit thin right in this area, and I'm assuming because the this is where you know it's coming out hot and going back in, that it may take a pretty good beating right there at that bend. So it may be the reason that this got so thin and split. But you know, these are reinforced, so it's just surprisingly to me, without seeing any real dry rot, that it failed in that manner. So anyways, just something to be mindful of if you got a lot of miles and you haven't changed these on your car. Definitely take a look at this one right here and feel and see how thin it is, and you might want to consider replacing it. This was $21 for this upper. So there's the lower ones, there's like two lower ones that piece together, if you've ever seen those down there, and I may see about tackling those when it warms up a little bit. But usually that's the way it goes. These will fail. Usually seems like at the coldest time of the year is when stuff like this likes to go. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just slip my clamps back onto my new hose. And I mean, you can definitely, when you feel of this one versus this new one, you can tell a huge difference, because I mean, you can really tell that there has been a lot of wear, and it really has gotten pretty thin. So it's time to be changed. So we'll go ahead and get our clamps on there, and we'll work on slipping this back into the car. So I've just got my clamps kind of put back on here, out of the way, back out of the way, so I can slip these on, and I've just kind of got them oriented in the position where I can get my pliers to them once I kind of slip them on here. So we're just going to go, I think I'm going to slip this this one down here on here first. And I put a little bit of oil on this one because it's like so corroded that it's kind of making it difficult to slip it on. So I put a little bit of oil on here just to kind of aid with sliding this on. It's going to be really tight, and I'm going to need both hands here, I'm sure. Okay, so I just wiggled that on there all the way back, both hands. Now I'm going to just take my pliers and fasten that clamp there. Just got this one here loose for the moment. I want to get this in first. Okay, and I'd point out that this clamp is pretty snug getting over that lip there, so you really got to squeeze it down. You can bend that tab if you don't have the special pliers. Just bend it out of your way and get it the best you can, because it really takes a little bit to get over that that little bit of a lip. So now we're just going to come back up here. So I've got that pushed back, and I'm going to have to do the same thing. I'm going to have to use both hands, because these are, well, I may be able to get this one. Usually they're pretty snug. You have to just wiggle, and you want to get it as far as you can. Absolutely push it where it won't go any farther, so you know you got it far enough. So now we're going to go ahead and get my pliers and then just finish clamping this one. I mean, these things, you know, I like them that you can, they're easy if you can, but you really do need the special pliers on a lot of these, because they can be kind of difficult and hard to get to situations. So anyways, going to go ahead and clamp that one. Okay, so we just reattached this little clamp that goes to this hose over here, and now we're just getting ready to go ahead and get our breather box back in here and reconnect our wires and stuff, and then we'll check this. I don't expect we'll have any leaks, but we'll check it and make sure we don't have any leaks going on, and get our coolant and stuff topped back off. Now, another thing I like to do when I'm putting this box back in here, I like to put a little grease in these grommets, because it just makes it easier to pop this thing in and out of here. Usually every time I take it out, I'll put a little dab of grease, because I mean, they go down in there and really stick sometimes. So I'm just getting ready to set this back in here. We'll reconnect our wire. We got this, just line up the little tabs with the little slots there. And we'll get this back into place and uncover our there, we got that. Okay, so then there's that snap back on there. Okay, and we got our wire, and so we just push this back down in these grommets, and then we'll take this and retighten our band on this right here. And then we're going to go ahead and start putting some coolant back in here. I've got a big funnel for working the air out of here, so we're going to do that as well. Just make sure you got that seated back in there properly. Okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to get the air out of here the old-fashioned way. This is my little bleeder funnel thing, and it sets on here, and there's an assortment of these here that are supposed to fit it, but none of these are fitting it, and I may very well have misplaced one. I don't know, but none of these fit this, so I'm just going to have to get the air out the old-fashioned way, which I'm just going to fill it up, run it a little bit, and then probably drive it and work the air out that way, and then take any pressure off. With some cars, you absolutely have to use like a bleeder valve to do this, but with this one, I've just simply filled it up and drove it a little bit and let it cool off and see if there's any pressure or any air, and just refill it as needed to kind of work the air out that way. You'll know when you go to running your heater, if your heater is getting warm and cold and warm and cold, you'll know if you haven't got the air out. So, but anyways, my little tank's not fitting it, and I can't find the right adapter, so I done poured out the coolant that I drained out, and I'm just got some 50-50 mix that I'm just going to finish topping this thing off with here at this point, and I'm going to run it and check it for leaks. Okay, and I just finished topping this thing off, and I'm just going to go ahead and put my cap back on, and I'm probably going to have all kinds of air in it, but I'm going to work it out of there. I'm just going to drive it. I'm going to get it back off of my ramps for now. Well, actually, first I'm going to crank it up and make sure I don't have anything leaking down here. Of course, I'm going to have all kinds of air in here, I know, because it had that big split, and it blowed coolant out everywhere. And I know it sucked all kinds of air into the system. But I'm just topping it off, and I'm going to run it a little bit. First off, I'm going to have to get it warmed up to get the thermostat opened up and get some circulation going through here, and then I'm going to work this air out. And I'm just going to, the way I did it last time, I just drove it around, let it set, and then release the pressure, and then just refilled it. Drove it some more, done that a few times, topped it off, just worked all the air out of it by driving it. So I like my little thing there, but I can't find the adapter for this, so I'm not able to use that. So we'll just do it this way, but I'm going to have to get it warmed up, and I'm going to check it and make sure I don't have anything leaking over here. Well, that's the first and foremost. We'll make sure that our hose is doing well. And definitely, you know, when you're working this air out, be cautious. Drive it a little bit, work the air out. Don't take it very far. You know, it starts getting hot, shut it down. You know, if you get a lot of air in there, you can have a problem in a hurry. So we're going to go ahead and continue warming it up. Okay, now I've drove this around a little bit and said you definitely want to be cautious. You let this thing cool down before you even think about opening this, and even when you do that, use caution. And I'm just letting a little bit of this air out, and at this point I can go ahead and remove the cap. Now you can, like say, turn this thing and it'll relieve pressure without removing it, but at this point it's cooled enough that it's safe, and I'm going to go ahead and finish topping this thing off a little bit. And I only drove it like, you know, a half a mile around just to working the air out a little bit. Okay, so I've just kind of added coolant. I had to wind up adding another gallon to this thing. It had a lot of air in there, so you have to be careful. If you start getting above the halfway mark on your temperature gauge, shut it off. And you know, you can sit here and idle with it and you know, run it around a little bit, ever how you want to do it. Just kind of work that air out there, and once your heater starts blowing good and more, then you know you got it. So anyways, all went smoothly on this. I just got to get it to the car wash and get it cleaned up a bit, but said hopefully that's been helpful on this, and you know, it gives you a little something to look for, because this car is, you know, approaching 200,000 miles, and the hose looked fine, and all of a sudden, boom, it went just one day, and luckily it wasn't on some type of a trip or something like that. So anyways, if you found it helpful, give it a like. As always, I invite you to subscribe, and I thank y'all for watching.